Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
An episode of the West Coast program Calling All Cars, an early police procedural sponsored by the West Coast Rio Grande Oil Company. And we thank you for tuning in on this TGI Friday edition. This is the second day of December, and we're running out of year. 336th day of the year, 29 days remaining till we get to 2023. President James Monroe delivered a speech establishing American neutrality in future European conflicts back in 1823, the Monroe Doctrine. That would not make it much into the 20th century. President James K. Polk announced to Congress the U.S. should aggressively expand into the West back in 1845, Manifest Destiny. In 1859, militant abolitionist leader John Brown hung for his October 16th raid on Harper's Ferry. That was in 1859. Following 19 years of Ford Model T production, Ford Motor Company unveiled on this date in 1927 the Ford Model A as its new automobile. In 1930, President Herbert Hoover went before Congress asking for a $150 million public works program to help generate jobs and stimulate the economy. LaGuardia Airport in New York City opened on this date in 1939. In 1942, a team led by Enrico Fermi initiated the first self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction. In 1954, the Senate voted 65-22 to condemn Joseph McCarthy for conduct that brought the Senate into dishonor and disrepute.
Apparently, every time anybody says anything against anybody working for Senator McCarthy, he is swearing them and is accusing them of communism.
Just answer the question. Do you know of any subversive?
That's the best answer that I can give.
Do you know of any subversive?
Stand in recess until 10 o'clock.
The answer you're going to get. You won't answer whether you know of any subversive. Mr. Chairman, even though the chair is waving, I want to make this record. And Mr. Reporter, will you take this down? Mr. Symington, other members of the Democrat Party here have been intimating that they know of some subversive on the staff investigating communists. I have asked Mr. Symington point blank to tell us whether he knew of any such subversive. He runs away. He won't answer the question.
Senator McCarthy and Stuart Symington of Missouri. I will say that the seeking out of communists is an admirable goal. However, the way Senator McCarthy did in many cases was not only improper, it could be considered immoral. In 1954, the Sino-American Mutual Defense Treaty between the U.S. and the Republic of China signed in Washington. Now, this was not the what we would now call Communist China. The Republic of China at that time was Taiwan. After a trip to Vietnam at the request of President Kennedy, Senate Majority Leader Mike Mansfield on this date in 1962 became the first American official to not make an optimistic public comment on the war's process. In 1964, despite local opposition, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called for action to register African American voters.
They refuse to register us. We will appeal to a little man who happens to live in Montgomery at the present time by the name of Mr. Wallace. If he doesn't listen, we will appeal and challenge the state legislature. Then if they don't listen, once more, we will dramatize this whole situation and seek to arouse the conscience of the federal government by marching by the thousands on places of registration all over the state.
Can you believe, and I say this today, We have come so far in race relations in this country, and yet we are constantly, the majority believes in equal rights for all. And yet, people want more than equal rights sometimes. That's at least the way it strikes me. I shouldn't be opinionating on this, but we have come so far, haven't we? Environmental Protection Agency began operating on this date in 1970. 4 U.S. nuns and churchwomen murdered by a death squad in El Salvador in 1980. It was in 1993, NASA launching the Space Shuttle Endeavour on a mission to repair the Hubble Space Telescope. In 2001, Enron filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It was in 2005, Syed Rizwa Farouk and Tashfeen Malik killed 14 people, wounded 22 at the Inland Regional Center in San Bernardino, California. And in 2016, 36 people died in a fire at a converted Oakland warehouse serving as an artist collective. Among those passing away on this date in history, French writer the Marquis de Sade, circus owner John Ringling, the very funny Marty Feldman, Desi Arnaz from I Love Lucy fame, and Babaloo, composer Aaron Copland, film and television actor Robert Cummings, very little remembered to this day. Also, Helen Willis on The Jeffersons, Roxy Roker passing away on this date, Mannix's secretary Peggy, Gail Fisher, passing away on this date, and the man who invented the concept of the Royal Rumble, Pat Patterson, passing away on this date in history. This is the birthday. We mentioned earlier that John Ringling passed away on this date in history. Well, his successor, Charles Ringling, born on this date, as was actor Ray Walston, my favorite Martian. I love that. And many of you remember him as Mr. Hand in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Soprano Maria Callas, also Julie Harris, Gianna Versace, all born on this date in history. Turning 54 today from Ally McBeal and Kill Bill, Lucy Liu, 54 today. Singer-songwriter Nelly Furtado, 44. Britney Spears is 41 today. Daniela Ruha from NCISLA, Daniela Ruha, 39. And the man who sang See You Again in the Fast and Furious 7 soundtrack, Charlie Puth, is 31. Those are a few of the people celebrating the second day of December as their birthday. And if this is your birthday...
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
And we head back 84 years to December 2nd, 1938, an episode of Calling All Cars and Blind Man's Bluff. That's coming up next when Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues on this Friday on your favorite radio station. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater on your favorite station. Now on this Friday, we're going to go back to Friday, December 2nd, 1938, 7:30 Pacific Coast Time, an episode of Calling All Cars, sponsored by Rio Grande Gasoline.
Calling All Cars, a copyrighted program created by Rio Grande.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars, attention all cars to broadcast 262 regarding a robbery. No description of suspects in this case. That is all. Harmon.
The story we are to hear tonight has been taken from the confidential files of the Los Angeles Police Department. We have therefore asked Captain of Detectives L. Curtis to open our program.
It has been said that when thieves fall out, just men get their dues. Had it not been for the falling out of the thieves involved in tonight's story, the job of apprehending the criminals would have been much greater. However, the infinite patience and intelligent deductive work of the investigating officers led to the ultimate arrest and conviction of the perpetrators of this crime. With an almost perfect setup, the criminals learned that crime did not pay. What reward they did get, I shall tell you at the end of the program.
Inside the living room of a cheap boarding house in Salt Lake City, a mechanical piano blared a ribald ballad.
Hiya, Sally. How's the boy?
Sure, that's tired of this dump I'm being.
Hey, how long have you been here?
2 years, come All Saints Day. That's 2 years I've been listening to that same piece of music.
You don't call that stuffy old lady's playing music, do you?
Nope, but she does.
Well, why don't you leave here?
Well, it's getting drunk I'm going to be doing when I get off here.
Yeah? When do you get off duty?
12 o'clock.
Well, then you just got a half an hour to go. I'll be back and we'll get drunk together.
Sullivan, get up, you lazy lout. Do you hear me? Get up and open this door.
Oh, the devil take you. Go away from the door and leave me alone.
Sullivan, open this door before I kick it in.
Someday it's strangling that woman I'm going to be with me 2 hands.
Sullivan!
Keep your shirt on. For a head like mine, 'tis no racket that I can stand this morning.
Well, you'll have a worse head than you've got now when I finish with you.
Now, you red-headed old banshee, what is it?
Well, where's the money?
What money?
What money, says he, standing there like a bloomin' infant.
And I repeat it. What money?
The money you took from the safe, you Irish rat.
I took no money from the safe, and I'm not a rat. And you be keeping a civil tongue in your head, or I'll bat you over the eye.
Don't lie to me, Dennis Sullivan. The safe is open and the money's gone.
Oh, it was there last night when I closed the office.
Well, it ain't there now.
Wait a minute. Where's George Music?
I suppose he's in his room. Where do you expect him to be?
I expect him to be in purgatory if he's done what I think he has.
Is it rousing the house you want to be doing?
You are no mouse yourself, you know. Just sleeping like a lamb, the devil is.
Well, try the door if you're so bent on seeing him.
By all the saints. 'Tis like I thought.
His bed ain't been slept in.
He's gone, and with him's gone your money. Come to think about it, I remember now. He was unusual curious about that safe. Come on.
And where do you think you're going?
To look for my wallet.
Don't be trying to think up any funny stories, Mr. Sullivan.
Hold your tongue. Ah, the wallet's gone. And in it was the combination to the safe. I remember now. I was showing Music this picture. And we were drinking, and he poured me another drink, and that's the last I remember.
Well, that's just too bad. Because there was $200 in that safe, and you're going to work right here and pay it back.
Heaven give me strength to keep me hands off the woman.
It is the morning of a spring day in Los Angeles. 2 men sit in the lobby of a hotel. Suddenly, one of them arises and motions to the other. Together, they walk briskly toward a man with dark glasses, tapping his way through the crowded lobby with a white cane.
And that's him, all right. Now, remember the story.
Don't worry about me. I'm all set.
Okay, here goes. Oh, pardon me, but aren't you Jonathan Flynn?
Yes, yes, I am.
Well, my name's Music, Mr. Flynn. George Music. And this is Mr. Paul Yates.
Pleased to meet you, Mr. Music. Mr. Yates?
Say, Mr. Flynn, is there someplace around here where we can talk without being disturbed?
Well, what did you wish to discuss? I'm rather busy this morning. Oh, we won't be a minute.
Oh, no. We'd like to talk in private.
The lobby sounds as if it were rather crowded. Well, we could go to my room if you wish.
Well, that's a good idea. That's fine.
You'll have to pardon me, but I can't hurry very well. I'm blind, you know.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll say.
And let me take your arm.
Thank you. No.
This is a nice hotel, Mr. Flynn.
I like it very much here. Everyone takes very good care of me.
And here's the elevator.
Watch your step, please.
How long you lived here, Mr. Flynn?
Oh, I haven't been here very long. I should say it's about 3 weeks, yes. 3 weeks.
What floor are you on?
6th. Room 619, 3 doors to the...
Say, that's a lovely ring you have there. How many carats?
Slightly over 2.
That tie pin must be over a carat, too.
Yes, it weighs...
6th floor.
Yes, I was going to say, it weighs almost 1.5 carats.
Family heirlooms?
Why are you so interested in my diamonds?
Oh, no reason at all. I imagine everyone admires him.
Oh. Here's your room, Mr. Flynn.
Oh, yes. If you'll just step in, gentlemen.
Oh, thanks.
There should be cigars and cigarettes on the smoking stand. And, do be seated, please.
I don't care if you do. Thanks.
And now then, gentlemen, what did you wish to discuss with me?
Well, you see, Mr. Flynn, we're from the Investment Diamond Brokers Exchange. Here's my card.
You forget I'm blind. I must take your word for it.
Oh, of course, I forgot. But as I was going to say, you can understand now why we were interested in your diamonds.
Oh, yes.
And naturally, we don't want people to know we're diamond brokers because we might get robbed.
Yeah, you see, we always carry a supply with us. By the way, you have a drink? I got a flask in my pocket.
Drink?
Yeah, that's a good idea. You'll join us, won't you, Mr. Flynn?
Well, ordinarily I don't drink, but perhaps a little sip might pick me up. I haven't been feeling so well lately.
Well, then this is just what you need. A little pick-me-up.
Thank you.
Here, help yourself.
Thank you.
Pretty hot stuff, huh, Mr. Flynn?
That'll be enough of that. It's too strong for me.
Gee, I'm sorry, Mr. Flynn. I guess me and Paul are pretty used to it. We don't seem to mind it.
No. But about those diamonds.
Yeah. Would you care to part with them?
Well, not exactly. No.
Well, we're prepared to give you a good price for them.
Yeah. More than you expect.
I really don't want to sell them, gentlemen.
No, we aren't in any hurry. Maybe if we sit here long enough, you'll change your mind.
I'm sure you will, Flynn.
I don't want to sell. If you gentlemen would excuse me.
It's working swell.
Yeah.
I have no problem, sellers.
Well, that's that. Come on, get to work.
Okay. I got the ring and the tie pin.
You search this half of the room, and I'll take the other. Work fast. We might be interrupted.
Okay. Pretty slick. Like taking candy from a baby.
A few hours later, Flynn recovered sufficiently to call the police. Detective Bud Curtis and Carl Williams are ushered into the disheveled chaos of open drawers and overturned furniture, mute evidence of the thoroughness of the two thieves' search. Flynn, still under the stupefying effect of the knockout drops, sits crumpled in his chair.
And you say they gave their names as Music and Yates?
Yes, that's right.
Have you any idea what they might look like?
None, except that Music sounded like a big man, and Yates might have been some kind of foreigner.
You mean he spoke with an accent?
No. It's just that when you're blind, as I am, you form ideas as to what the person looks like. I can't explain it. You just feel it.
Were the diamonds insured?
Oh, yes. I've already notified the insurance company.
Do you ever remember hearing either of the two voices before?
No, sir. No, I never did, no.
Well, Bud, looks like we don't have much to work on.
Not much. Did anyone see you with these men, Mr. Flynn?
Well, the lobby was crowded, but I'm afraid that isn't much help.
How about the elevator boy? I'll call the desk and get him up here. This is Carl Williams from police headquarters. Send the elevator boy up here right away. Just a moment, I'll find out. Do you remember which elevator you rode in?
Oh, I think it was the middle one.
The middle one? Okay, thanks.
We'll have the room checked for fingerprints. Maybe something might show up that could help us.
Hey, what's that card you have in your hand, Mr. Flynn?
Card? Wait, this is the card Music handed me when he said he was connected with the diamond brokerage firm.
Well, let's see it. Well, this doesn't help much. See what you make out of it, Bud.
George Music, linoleum salesman. No address. Well, it's better than nothing. I tell you what, Carl, you stay here and question the elevator boy.
Okay.
I'm going to start making the rounds of all the small printing presses in town.
Then followed days of endless walking, futile searching, unanswered questions. Apparently, the card had not been printed in Los Angeles. Curtis and Williams had about given up the search for the time being when an unexpected visitor dropped into headquarters.
You're the detective that called on me a few days ago, aren't you?
Oh, yes. Yes, you own the little printing shop on South Spring, don't you?
Yeah. Take a look at this card.
And it looks as if there may be a breakthrough. We know none of the cast members who did any of the acting on this show. And that's not unusual for early radio. A lot of the people just didn't get acknowledged. But we will acknowledge that this is from December 2nd, 1938, Calling All Cars on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Thanks for tuning into this Friday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We're listening to an episode of Calling All Cars, as it was originally broadcast on Friday, December 2nd, 1938, 7:30 Pacific Coast Time. In the newspapers of that Friday, 84 years ago, these were some of the headlines. President Roosevelt's continued delay in appointing a new ambassador to Moscow has created an impression in diplomatic circles in Washington that American relations with Russia may have arrived at the same state of chilly doubt as those with Germany. Neither the U.S. nor Germany has an ambassador at each other's capital, and the same situation holds true with regard to the U.S. and Russia. President Roosevelt has allowed the Moscow post to stand vacant since Ambassador Joseph E. Davies was transferred to Brussels in June. He said this week he did not know when he would appoint a new envoy. The Kremlin has also let it be known that Ambassador Alexander A. Troninovsky, who had gone home on leave, would not return to Washington. There are indications that his successor will not be named until Roosevelt has acted. Foreign Minister Georges Bonnet protested officially to Italy last night against fascist demonstrations believed in Paris to herald the opening of a campaign to get Tunisia from France. Bonnet called Rafael Guilgari, Italian ambassador to Paris, to the Foreign Office and expressed a firm protest against cries of Tunisia, Tunisia, voiced by Italian deputies Wednesday during a speech by Italy's foreign minister. The shouts, which brought to the fore an old source of friction between France and Italy, came as Count Ciano set forth the fascist government's interests and aspirations. With a schoolmaster's pointer and a dizzying array of business charts, Dr. Isidora Lubin, the Federal Commissioner of Labor Statistics, gave the Monopoly Committee a broad picture of the past operation of the American economic machine yesterday and added this advice as to the future. The growth of the American population, which for years acted as spur upon production, is now slowing down and by 1960 will stop altogether. Consequently, only a constantly increasing consumption per family can bring about a general and regular increase in the output of the nation's industries. And Loretta Young left waiting at the church when William P. Buckner arrested in New York yesterday on a mail fraud charge. Buckner had just arrived from Europe and planned to fly to California when he was arrested. The prisoner quoted as saying that the complaint against him was nothing at all, it's all on the level. He said he planned to marry Miss Young and fly to Honolulu for their honeymoon. Airport employees about to take Buckner's luggage from the pier when Maloney and postal officials arrived. And those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Friday, December 2nd, 1938, on your radio, Calling All Cars, which continues now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
You're the detective that called on me a few days ago, aren't you?
Oh, yes. Yes, you own the little printing shop on South Spring, don't you?
Yeah. Take a look at this card.
Music. Where'd you get this?
I made it.
Yes, I know, but
And here's the card I made it from.
Oh, by George. Exactly like the one the blind man had. Hey, Carl, come in here a minute.
Okay.
When was he into your place?
Yesterday. I was pretty rushed with work, and it never dawned on me until about an hour ago. I came here right away.
What'd you find?
Look at these.
Well, that's more like it. When's he coming in for these?
Well, that's the sad part of the story. He's already come and got them.
What do you mean?
Yes, I'm sorry. If I'd only thought sooner. But here's a telephone number that might be of help to you.
Let me see it. Where'd you get this?
Well, while he was waiting for me to wrap the cards up, he phoned this number. He couldn't get it the first time, so he wrote it on the wall with a pencil.
Well, Mr. Mitchell, perhaps you've been a big help to us.
Tracing the telephone number, the officers learned that the address is an apartment house on Ingram Street. They contact the manager.
You the manager of this apartment?
Yes?
We're from police headquarters, and we're looking for a George Music and a Paul Yates. Are they living here?
Music is. I'll see if he's in.
And when you ring the apartment, make some excuse for calling. Don't let him know we're here.
Sure. Well, I guess there's nobody in. I don't answer.
Well, we'll wait. Mind if we step into the office?
No, not at all. Come in. Kind of small in here. Sit down. A couple of chairs.
Thanks.
Thank you.
If it isn't too prying, what do you want music for? And Yates?
For a diamond theft. They stole from a blind man.
A blind man? What a cowardly trick.
Yeah. They doped him and robbed him in a hotel room downtown.
Well, music ought to be in fairly soon.
Tell me, Mr.
My name is Simmons, sir.
Glad to know you, Mr. Simmons. This is Carl Williams, and I'm Bud Curtis.
How do you do?
Glad to know you.
I was going to ask you, Mr. Simmons, what you knew about these men.
Well, not very much that'd be of value to you. Music said he sold linoleum. I've got his card around here someplace.
Sure passed him out, didn't he?
Yeah. What else you know?
Well, that's about all. He always carries a roll of linoleum in the back of his car. His wife does...
Wife?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, he and Yates are both married.
You know anything about Yates?
No. He comes in here to see music quite often, though. I never... Pardon me just a moment.
Do you have a George Music or a Paul Yates registered here?
Yes, won't you come in?
Yeah, thanks, I will. Oh, I didn't mean to intrude. Excuse me.
All right, come in.
Well, I just wanted to...
What do you want with music and Yates?
Well, I can't possibly see what business that is of yours.
No? Does this badge make it clear?
Say, what's so funny?
This. Here, look.
Why, you're a detective, too.
Yeah, I work for an insurance company.
Well, we might as well join forces. My name's Carl Williams, and this is Bud Curtis.
Right.
Mr. Simmons is manager here.
Well, my name's Johnson.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, we're waiting for music now.
Okay, we might as well all nab him at the same time. Give him a real welcome when he comes in.
And from December 2nd, 1938, Calling All Cars on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion follows these important words. Saturday on Classic Radio Theater, Don McLaughlin and Mandel Kramer in an episode of Counterspy from 72 years ago, December 3rd, 1950, the case of the spectrograph. The Counterspy is on the trail of an eccentric scientist who's developed a deadly invention. That's coming up on Saturday's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Don't forget, coming up on Wednesday, we will have an hour devoted to the broadcast of December 7th, 1941. You'll hear that coming up on Wednesday. Now, the conclusion of Calling All Cars, December 2nd, 1938.
The hours dragged into late evening, but George Music failed to appear. It became evident that the vigil would have to be kept through the night. The apartment house manager offered the officers a vacant room across the hall from Music's apartment, and the three men moved in, prepared to wait.
This keyhole doesn't afford the best view of the door across the hall. We ought to make a peephole.
Hey, that's a good idea. I got a little gimlet in my briefcase.
Yeah?
Say, you came all prepared, huh?
Sure.
Here, let me have it.
All right.
I'll bore the hole.
It's past midnight now, and he still hasn't shown up. I got a hunch he's skipped.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. But then there's still Mrs. Music. That is, if she hasn't skipped, too. There. Now we can see without stooping down and breaking our backs.
Yeah, that's great.
Why don't you go out and get us some sandwiches, Johnson?
Oh, that wouldn't be a bad idea. There's a cafe down the street, and I can...
Quiet.
What is it?
Somebody's across the hall. A woman.
Mrs. Music, I'll bet.
Yep, must have been. Come on, let's go over and have a talk with her.
Hey, you better not let her know we're across the hall.
Who is it?
Officers, open up.
Well?
You Mrs. Music?
Yes.
Fine. We'll come in and have a little talk. Just the four of us.
What right have you to come in here?
Why, we just wanted to get some information, and we thought you might be able to help us. Surely you can't object to helping us.
Well, come on in. But I can't be of any help to you. I might as well tell you now.
Thanks.
This is a nice place you have here, Mrs. Music.
How'd you know my name?
The manager told us.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want? I want to get to bed.
Sure. All we wanted to know was if you had any idea where we could find your husband.
Not the slightest.
When did you see him last?
Oh, I don't know. A few days ago. Why?
You know a man, a blind man named Flynn?
Say, what is all this anyway?
We're trying to recover some stolen diamonds. Well, not that your husband had anything to do with them, but he might be able to help us.
I'm sure my husband couldn't be of any help to you. Good night, gentlemen.
And you don't know where your husband is now?
No. He's a linoleum salesman, you know. He travels on the road quite a bit. And now, if you gentlemen will excuse me,
Oh,
please.
sorry to have bothered you, Mrs. Music. Good night.
Realizing that their vigil in the apartment might be a long one, the officers determined to install a dictograph in the suspected apartment. Accordingly, they conferred with the manager.
How long will you boys need to complete the job?
Oh, it shouldn't take more than a couple of hours.
Well, I think I can arrange it for you.
Oh.
She likes ball games, and tomorrow there's a doubleheader at Wrigley Field. I think if I ask her to go with me, she will.
Say, that sounds all right. She's up there now. Call her on the phone. Find out if she'll go.
Okay. Hello, Mrs. Music. This is Mr. Simmons. Say, I'm going to the ball game tomorrow afternoon, and I thought maybe you might like to go along. Okay. Yeah, leave about 1:30. Say, better still, make it 12. We can grab a sandwich on the way. Oh, that's quite all right, Mrs. Music. Glad you can go.
What did she say, Mr. Simmons?
All set. You boys will be free for 4 or 5 hours.
No use, fellas. She's got a plug in the door. I can't get the key in.
Now what'll we do?
Well, there's only one thing to do. Go down the air shaft and in through the bathroom window.
Say, that's not a bad idea. Johnson can lower you and me down from the roof.
Okay.
It shouldn't take the two of us very long to get the dictograph wired up.
Now, you better take a table leaf along. You can put it across the shaft from one end to the other. I noticed the apartment next to Music has a window just opposite.
Okay, let's go.
What about the wires?
Well, we can run those out the window and up over the roof to the air shaft and then in through our bathroom window. The most important thing is to get finished before she gets back.
Bancroft's coming up. Maybe we'll get a homer.
Homer? Say, Mr. Simmons, would you care very much if we left?
Huh? Why, we haven't been here but a half hour.
I know, but I feel uneasy. I'm afraid.
I don't get you.
Well, I don't know whether you knew it or not, but 3 police officers were to see me last night. It made me pretty upset.
Police officers? What in the world did they want?
Oh, nothing. They were looking for some diamond thief. But it just made me uneasy. Somebody might try to break into the apartment. Anyway, we've seen enough of the game.
Well, if you think you'd better, I suppose we... Oh! I told you he'd hit one! He's gonna make it! Come on, Bancroft!
Come on, Bancroft! All the way around!
Look at that boy come in.
Oh, was that a honey? Oh, boy! Oh, gosh, look at that!
Change your mind about going home?
Oh, well, I guess so. There's really nothing in the apartment of any value anyway.
Good. I thought for a minute you were going to drag me away from a darn good ball game. Hey, boy, bring me a couple of bottles of pop.
Swell.
2 dogs. There's nothing like soda pop and hot dogs to make a real ball game.
You said it.
Now to run the wires out the window and over the roof.
Think she'll be able to see it?
Ah, when a couple of artists like us get through. That is a pretty good idea of mine, to hide it in the chandelier, even if I do say so myself.
I still like the curtain, but then it isn't as artistic as the chandelier.
No, of course not. Looks like part of the fixture. Say, don't forget to clean up every speck of muss.
Yeah.
There's a piece of insulation over there by the lamp.
I got it. Come on, let's get out of here. We still got plenty to do in our own apartment.
Okay. Give Johnson the signal.
I already did. He's lowering the rope. Here, give me the wire.
Here. I got the tools. Careful now. Don't push that table leaf away. We won't have anything to stand on, and we'll miss the rope.
Don't worry. Gosh, it's sure going to be great to have a cigarette again. 2 hours and a half in that stuffy apartment.
Yeah, me too. Okay, there's the rope. On your way. Careful now.
Can you manage those tools?
Yeah. Hurry up. I want to finish rigging this thing up before she gets back. We won't have time to test it.
All right, let it go, Johnson.
Listen, somebody's coming up the hall.
Can you see who it is?
Yeah, it's them, all right. Turn it on.
Okay.
Keep it down until she closes the door.
all right.
She might hear herself. Okay, turn it up.
She is.
Both went in and shut the door.
I'm awful glad you
works.
enjoyed the game, Mrs. Music.
Well, it was very nice of you to ask me. Want you to sit down a minute?
Well, no thanks. I've got some things to do. Some other time, maybe. Say, by the way, everything all right? I mean, nobody broke into this.
No. I'm sorry to have worried like I did. I hope I didn't spoil the game for you.
No, not at all. Swell ball game. Well, I have to run along. Take in another game one of these days, eh?
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah, cut that thing. He's got to open the door.
Well, it works. Now all we have to do is sit and wait.
And look and listen. Not very exciting, but I'll lay you 2-1 we nab Music and Yates. Want to bet?
Days went by, and though Mrs. Music had many callers, the officers learned nothing that was of value to them. Then one day, almost 3 weeks after the robbery, a short, heavy-set woman knocked on the door of the apartment across the hall.
Get the dictograph ready. We've got another visitor. A new one.
All set. Man or woman?
Woman. Okay, turn it on.
Well, come in. How are you?
I'm all right. Pretty tired of waiting.
Then you've heard something?
Yes, Paul sent me word yesterday.
Hey, that must be Mrs. Yates.
Yeah.
What'd he say? Where's George?
I don't know. He said for you to get in touch with Louis at the farmer's garage.
Is that all?
No. He said Louis would get a letter and there'd be one for you inside. Now I gotta go. I shouldn't have come here in the first place. We might be watched.
Nah. I had one visit from the cops, but that's all. Stick around.
No. Better go. See you later.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll go with you. I'm going down to the garage.
You don't know it, lady, but you're going to have company right behind you.
Boy, I thought for a while we were going to lose her in that traffic jam.
That taxi driver must be a friend of hers, judging by the way he took chances getting down here.
Let's get over.
Evidently, Louis is a mechanic. You going to take her down to headquarters?
I think we're better. May have some questions to ask her.
Well, you better get ready. Here she comes. Just a minute. Suppose you wait and open that letter at headquarters.
Hey, wait a minute. I ain't done nothing.
We didn't say you had. We just want you to read that letter at headquarters. Now, are you coming along peaceably, or do we have to drag you?
Okay, I'll come. But you guys got me all wrong. I ain't done nothing.
Well, let's hope not. Here, I'll take charge of the letter.
At police headquarters, the letter was opened, and immediately telegraph wires carried a message.
Los Angeles Police Department to Omaha, Nebraska. Pick up George Music, alias Byron King, registered International House, Omaha. Wanted for diamond robbery.
Music was taken into custody and returned to California.
Sit down, Mr. Flynn.
Thank you.
I want you to listen to a suspect we brought back on this diamond case. Williams, will you bring in Music?
Sure. Come in here, Music.
Okay. George, is this the fella you stole the diamond ring from?
I never stole no diamond ring from nobody.
Oh, yes, you did. That's the man, Mr. Curtis. He's one of the men who gave me the knockout drink and robbed me.
Well, what about it, Music?
Ah, nuts. What do I care? Sure, I stole it. So what?
What'd you do with it?
Well, it's a long story, Lieutenant. You see, I had the diamond on me when I met a friend of mine on the street downtown. A guy I used to know back in Salt Lake City. His name was Sullivan. Well, he knows a dame, so he says, who can get rid of this hot ice. So I gives him the ring, and he says, you wait here and I'll be right back. And I was sap enough to do it. Well, he never did come back. I found out later he went to San Diego and sold the ring. Got $1,500 for it.
Yeah, what'd you get out of it?
I didn't get nothing. He double-crossed me, the lousy crook.
Music was sent to prison for his participation in the robbery, and his companion Yates was later found in Oregon. However, it was impossible to extradite him because the blind victim could not furnish an identification. Sullivan was later located in Salt Lake City and was brought back and charged with receiving stolen property and received a sentence in the county jail.
Thank you, Captain Curtis.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars, attention all cars, to cancellation on broadcast 262 regarding a robbery. Suspect in this case was arrested in Omaha, Nebraska. That is all. Harmon.
This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley, bidding you good night for Rio Grande.
Next week at this time, Rio Grande will present The Case of the Poisoning Jezebel. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
December 2nd, 1938, Calling All Cars on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit my webpage, classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows, learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can contact me there as well at classicradio.stream. And if you'd like to support our acquiring additional collections to bring you here, you can buy me a coffee there as well at classicradio.stream. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.